I thought I was going to a chill backyard barbecue with a guy from a dating app. What I walked into was nothing like that. The doors locked behind me. There was no party, and what he really wanted to show me was in the basement. I should have left the moment I stepped inside, but I didn't, and that's when things got strange. This happened back in 2015, but I'll probably never forget it. I was around 21, fairly new in my city, fresh out of a bad relationship and not in a great place mentally. I didn't know many people besides my ex and his friends. I was on a dating app looking for casual connections, maybe make a few friends, maybe find someone laid back to spend time with. That's when I matched with Simon. He said he was 25, lived in a house with his bandmates, and played in a rock band. He even sent me a YouTube link with their music. A single still image of 5 guys with instruments, one of whom looked like him. The music wasn't my style, but he seemed chill enough. Then he ghosted. I figured that was the end of it. But a few days later, out of nowhere, he messaged me at work. Said he was sorry he'd been busy and invited me to a barbecue with his bandmates. He explained their band manager provided the house. It sounded a little sketchy, but I figured he was exaggerating and it was more like a friend helping them out. I normally would have declined. Going to a stranger's house alone isn't my thing, but I was bored, a bit lonely, and convinced myself it could be a low-pressure way to meet people. He made it sound like a pretty big backyard party. The neighborhood was suburban and quiet, so I figured if it's outside during daylight, I'd be okay. I did tell him I wasn't comfortable going inside. He said that was totally fine. I even avoided drinking water at work to make sure I wouldn't need to use the bathroom. I asked if he could meet me at the train station. He agreed, but when I got there around 5:30, he wasn't. He told me to just start walking, and eventually I saw him slowly heading my way. He was wearing bell-bottoms and had long hair, which helped me recognize him. But up close, he looked way older than in his pictures, like 5 to 10 years older. It wasn't just aging, it felt like I'd met a different person. That was red flag number 1. He was clearly already drunk, but I brushed it off. I figured, hey, it's a barbecue. Red flag number 2 came when we got to the front door. I reminded him I didn't want to go inside. He said we'd just pass through the house to get to the backyard. Fine, not ideal, but doable. We entered and he immediately locked the door behind me. That weirded me out, but some people do that by habit, right? Then he said he wanted to give me a tour. I politely declined, reminded him I was just there for the barbecue. He insisted, said he was proud of the place, that he and the band worked hard for it. At this point, I was doubting everything he told me, but I didn't want to cause tension. I figured if I just went along with the tour, we'd eventually get outside and I could leave. So, I followed. The decor looked like something a suburban mom would have picked, not some band house. It started to feel like maybe this wasn't even his house. We passed some closed bedroom doors, checked out a basic kitchen, and that's when I noticed. There was nobody in the backyard. No people, no grill, no food, nothing. I asked where everyone was, and he said his bandmates were running late, stuck on tour with van trouble. When I asked why he wasn't on tour, he gave a vague answer that made no sense. At this point, my mental gymnastics were out of fuel. Something was way off. I just wanted out, but I also knew I had to be careful. He offered me a beer. I said no, had to work early. He cracked one open for himself, then said he wanted to show me the basement. I could see it was one of those dark basements with tiny windows. I said no. I lied and said I was scared of spiders, didn't like basements, whatever I could come up with that wouldn't tip him off that he was the problem. He got agitated. I didn't want to escalate things, so I agreed. Downstairs was weird. There was a couch, a TV, some workout gear, but then I saw a heavy foam-lined door, the kind that only opens from the outside. He said it was their soundproof music studio. I stayed several feet back and peeked in. No recording equipment, just some guitars, amps, and mattress toppers on the walls. He urged me to go inside. He stood in the doorway, motioning me in. That's when I realized I could absolutely die here. I turned and bolted up the stairs. He followed, trying to act like I was being unreasonable. I played it cool. My only focus was getting out, but the front and back doors were both locked, and I wasn't confident I could get them open before he stopped me. He was bigger, faster, and now unpredictable. I kept up this small talk, hoping to de-escalate. He cracked open another beer and mellowed out a bit. I said again, "Why don't we sit outside?" He refused. I told him I needed a cigarette. He said we could smoke inside, pointed to a cereal bowl full of butts. Gross. But I said fine. He lit a joint and offered it to me. I took the tiniest puff, faked a coughing fit, said I couldn't handle it. Then he asked if I wanted to watch a movie. I said I'd rather be outside. He didn't like that. Got too close, grabbed me by my waist. I pulled away and changed the subject, asked about the barbecue food. He snapped, said his friends would be home any minute. My anxiety was sky high. Then, something happened that probably saved me. He ran out of beer and got visibly irritated. I suggested we go get more for the party. He perked up at the idea, agreed. I didn't know what I'd do, but at least I'd be out of that house. We walked to the liquor store. I told him to go inside without me. He insisted I come in. I was too frazzled to fight it, so I went in and hoped for a better opportunity. When we were checking out, I considered asking for help, but the cashier was cold and dismissive. I chickened out. I saw a drugstore across the street and said I needed a toothbrush. He tried to follow me. I told him he couldn't bring beer in there. He bought it. I went in alone. He stood outside staring in the window for 30 minutes. Never pulled out his phone, just stared. I waited and waited. Thought about asking staff for help, but they were mostly kids and I didn't want to put them in a situation they couldn't handle. Eventually, a large group of people came in. I hovered near them as they paid and walked out with them. Right as we got outside, I turned to Simon and firmly said, "Leave me alone. Go home." I said it loud enough to draw attention. The group looked over. Simon glanced at them, paused and just walked away. I ran to the train station and never heard from him again. His dating profile was gone. When I was 20, so about 6 years ago, I worked as a delivery driver for a pretty popular pizzeria in my area. Originally, I worked the late morning to mid-afternoon shift, but that changed when the night shift guy got fired for losing his license due to a DUI. My boss replaced him by hiring a family friend to take my shift. That meant I was stuck with the night deliveries. I really didn't want that shift. Anyone who's worked late deliveries knows you never really know if someone just wants a pizza or something else. But my boss basically said, take it or you're fired, and I couldn't afford to be unemployed. So I agreed. The first month went smoothly until I got a late order to a house right on the edge of our delivery zone. It was about 11 p.m. when I arrived. The neighborhood was quiet, suburban, well lit. Most of the homes were sleek townhouses, except the one I was delivering to. It was a duplex. I rang the bell. No answer. Waited, rang again. Still nothing. I was just about to leave when the door opened. A man stood there, late 40s, over 6 feet, extremely skinny. He just stared at me for a moment. I said, "Hey, your pizza's here." He snapped out of it and said, "Sorry, I just got off work, zoning out." Fair enough. He handed me the money and I gave him the pizza. While I was giving him his change, he said, "You're really beautiful, you know that?" I gave a polite smile, thanked him, and said goodnight. He just stood there watching me walk to my car. A few days later, he ordered again. Same time, same place. When he opened the door, he was visibly excited. "Hey, it's you again. How are you?" I told him I was tired and ready to go home. He laughed and said, I know that feeling. Then he asked my name. I wasn't really thinking. I told him. Then came the kicker. Can I get your number? I'd love to hang out with someone as gorgeous as you. Whoa, pump the brakes, buddy. I've met you twice, both times just to drop off food. Also worth noting, back then, I looked very young, like 15-year-old young. I silently hoped that wasn't what he thought I was. Trying to dodge the situation, I said, "Sorry, I have a boyfriend." His face changed. "Oh, I see." I told him to have a good night and walked back to my car. He didn't reply, just stood there, still staring at me, until I started the engine and pulled away. It was creepy enough that I brought it up to my coworkers. They all agreed it was off. Well, everyone except my boss, who overheard the conversation and accused me of making it up for sympathy. Total jerk. A week later, he orders again. This is where it escalates. I pull up around 10:30 p.m. The house is completely dark, no lights on anywhere. As I approach the front door, it swings open suddenly. He's standing there, wearing a suit. I physically jumped. He laughs. "Sorry if I scared you. I saw you walking up and figured I'd just open the door." I nervously laugh it off, but in my head I'm thinking, why was he sitting in the dark? And how long had he been watching me? He asks if I like his suit. I say, "Yeah, looks nice." And he says, "Would you like to go on a date with me tonight?" What? I tell him again, "Sorry, I have a boyfriend." He chuckles and gets closer. "Honey, there's no way a girl your age is in a serious relationship. Go out with me tonight? I'll show you how a real man treats a girl." He grabs the pizza box and throws it aside. Then he grabs me, hard. I'm terrified. I plead, "Please, I just want to go home. I don't want to go on a date tonight." He stares at me coldly and says, "I don't care. Get inside, now. We're gonna have a good time." He starts dragging me toward the house, then he lets go of one arm and reaches into his pocket. I thought he was pulling out a knife. I acted fast. I swung my free arm and punched him in the stomach as hard as I could. It worked. He stumbled. I broke free and ran for my car. As I reached it, he came after me, now holding a knife, and screamed, "Why are you making this so freaking difficult?" I grabbed a half-full soda bottle from my cup holder and threw it at his face. It hit him and he let go. I jumped in, slammed the door, and then he leapt onto the hood of my car. He started clawing and pounding on the windshield, still holding the knife, yelling, "Stop the freaking car!" I reversed fast, swerving down the road while he tried to hang on. Eventually, on a sharp turn, he fell off. It didn't stop. I sped through side streets, making random turns just in case he followed me. When I finally hit a red light, I stopped and just sat there, frozen, shaking, crying. I drove back to the pizzeria, and the second I walked in, one of my coworkers knew something was wrong. I broke down. Everyone came to the front and I told them what happened. My coworker comforted me, and surprisingly, my boss apologized. He let me use the phone to call the police. The officers took my statement and photos of the bruises on my arms and scratches on my car. My coworker followed me home. I quit the next day. A friend helped me get a job at her clothing store. 2 days later, the police gave me an update. The duplex was owned by the guy's brother. He and his wife lived on one side. The man who attacked me lived alone on the other. Turns out, he had a long rap sheet. Assaults, robberies, and worse. His most recent charge? A conviction for a crime involving a minor. He'd been released from prison 5 months before I met him. When police went to the house, he was gone. I spent the next 2 months terrified. What if he came back? But then came another update. He fled to a nearby city and tried to kidnap a teenage girl walking home at night. Someone saw what was happening, called 911, and police gave chase. He ran a red light. A van T-boned his car. The driver of the van had minor injuries. He didn't make it. The officer who told me said, We wanted you to hear it from us and know you're safe. I walked outside, lit a cigarette, and just stood there. I don't wish death on people, I really don't. But in that moment, I felt relief. Relief that he couldn't hurt anyone ever again. Relief that I didn't have to relive the trauma in court. And relief that I survived. Because that night, I almost didn't. Quick pause. Have you ever been on a date that went way off the rails? Creepy encounters, sketchy vibes, or a straight up horror story? I want to hear it. Share in the comments or email mrliminalstories@gmail.com. We're still a growing channel, so it's very likely to hear your story in the next video. Stay sharp, stay safe. I had just come out of a relationship and figured a bit of casual dating might be fun, so I signed up for Tinder. I made it clear to the few people I matched with that I wasn't looking for anything serious, just dinner or a pub night here and there. I matched with a really cute guy, let's call him Pete. He had just moved to my city and said he wasn't looking for anything serious either. Our first date was at a popular tapas bar I knew well. Some of my friends worked there, so I felt safe. He was on time and honestly, he made a good first impression. Said he was a freelance software developer and currently sharing a place with friends. That all sounded reasonable. He offered to drop me off afterward, but I said I'd prefer to Uber home. He joked, "What, meeting someone else after me?" I laughed, thinking it was just that, a joke. 3 days later, Pete asked to see me again. He said he couldn't stop thinking about me. We met at another restaurant, again, one I chose because I knew the staff. But this time, he got annoyed with me for ordering too much, even though I insisted on paying for myself both times. Midway through dinner, he stepped away to take a call. I could still hear parts of it. "No, I think I'm gonna stay with you again." "Yeah, I'm with her." "Don't worry about it, I'll be home soon." I figured it was a roommate or maybe his mom, but I didn't ask. When he returned, he said, "Please, I insist. Bad things happen to women who Uber home this late. Let me drop you off." I gave in and let him. As soon as he got home, he messaged me saying he'd be picking me up the next morning for a picnic. I said I had house chores to do, but he insisted. And sure enough, at 10 a.m., he was outside my apartment. When I got in his car, I leaned in to say hello, and his breath was awful. I spent the entire picnic dodging his attempts to kiss me. At 4 p.m., I asked him to take me home. He agreed, and I fell asleep on the way. When I woke up, he asked if he could go up to my place and finish the mimosas we brought. I told him no, and that's when he snapped. "What are you hiding from me? Just be honest. Why are you so desperate to keep me out of your apartment?" I was stunned and stayed quiet. He dropped me off but sat parked across my place for over 30 minutes. Then he texted me, "Home safe. I think I'm starting to fall for you." About 5 days later, he messaged again. Said he found a restaurant he knew I'd love. I agreed to go, but only if he sent me the address. He said he'd pick me up. At 7 p.m., he wasn't just outside, he was at my gate. "Show me which one's yours. I'd love to see how you live." That was his opening line. No hello, no smile. I changed the subject, saying I was starving and we should head to dinner. At the restaurant, he got another call. This time, he stayed at the table. "Yeah, I don't know, I'll let you know by 10. Then to me, "Am I sleeping at your place tonight?" And I said, No, I have work." "Same here." Then back to his phone, he said, "I'll let you know." And the caller said, "No, you're not. Just get your stuff, please." "And do what with it?" "Take it to the girl you're seeing. I'm done asking you." Now I'm frozen at the table, completely creeped out. We ate in silence. He tried to play it off, said he just wanted to see my place, nothing more. I told him clearly I didn't like having strangers in my home. He got upset. We paid separately again. I said I'd Uber and he said, "What's the use? I already know where you live." I got in his car. When I reached for my jumper in the back seat, I noticed a bag full of clothes, toiletries, and a pillow. I brushed it off. Some people just keep random stuff in their car. But halfway home, out of nowhere, he muttered, "You're so selfish. I've been driving you around and you won't even let me stay over." I told him I'd be fine with Ubering. If that bothered him so much, I could reimburse him. His phone rang. Again. The caller said, "Your stuff is at the front gate, Pete. Stay with your girlfriend or stay with your mom. You're done taking advantage of everyone." "I don't talk to my mom, you witch." He hung up, then turned to me and yelled, "I have nowhere to go. Are you freaking happy now? You spoiled brat. Living off mommy and daddy's money. Getting driven around like I work for you, witch." My whole body froze. In my head, I mapped out a plan. As soon as he stopped, I'd run through the cafe under my apartment, cut through the back gate, and reach the secure entrance. I didn't want him close to me or my door. The second he stopped, I bolted into the cafe, out the back, up 2 flights of stairs, and started banging on a neighbor's door. They let me in. I explained everything. They even called the cafe to let them know I wasn't in danger. I'd just been terrified. I blocked Pete. Haven't seen or heard from him since. To this day, I don't know his full story. Maybe he was homeless. Maybe the woman on the phone was another Tinder date who let him in and never left. Maybe he was looking to do the same with me. All I know is he scared the life out of me. And Pete, let's not meet ever again. This happened about a year ago. I was on Grindr looking for either fun dates or new friendships. For those unfamiliar, Grindr is a social app primarily used by gay men. A lot of people use it to chat or meet up. One day I got a message from a guy, let's call him Brian. He seemed charismatic, kind, and genuinely good at holding a conversation, which honestly is rare on that app. After chatting for a few days, we exchanged numbers. I asked if he wanted to go on a date, and he happily agreed. The plan was simple. I'd drive to his place, pick him up, and we'd grab lattes at my favorite local coffee shop. At around 6 p.m., I texted him to say I was leaving, and he responded, "I can't wait to meet you." I smiled. He seemed sweet. But while I was driving, I got a call from him. Brian said, "Hey, quick change of plans. I'm tired and would rather not go out. Would you be okay staying at my place? We can order food and watch something." I said, "I mean, that's not what I really had in mind. I like to go out on first dates." He said, "Oh, don't be such a buzzkill. Just come over. I won't show you a bad time." That tone shift gave me a weird feeling in my gut. In texts, he seemed lighthearted, but on the phone, he sounded rushed, on edge. Still, I reasoned he might just be tired after a long day. I ignored the red flag. When I pulled into his driveway, he greeted me at the door. He looked like his picture. Tall, handsome, stylish glasses. His roommate was in the living room playing video games, so I introduced myself, trying to be polite. Brian called for me to follow him into his room, so I did. And I immediately wished I hadn't. His room looked like something out of a horror story. Candles were lit everywhere. Multiple altars filled the room. Effigies of strange figures, animal bones, jars of weird liquids. I saw a dagger next to what looked like a cat's skull. One altar sat on the floor, encircled with animal skulls and a jar filled with yellow fluid. Another one had a doll with sewn-shut eyes and missing hands. I froze. My gut screamed, "Get out!" But part of me didn't want to overreact. Maybe it was some kind of niche spiritual practice? I tried to be open-minded. I nervously asked about the altars. He replied, "I'll tell you about them later." When I pointed to one, he suddenly snapped, "Don't touch that." I hadn't even gotten close. His tone was so sharp, I felt like a kid being scolded at church. I apologized, stunned. And just like that, his anger flipped to a smile. "Come, sit with me." His smile seemed real, like nothing had happened. I was unsettled, but I sat with him anyway. We talked a bit. He became soft-spoken again, just like in the texts. For a moment, I thought maybe I'd overreacted. Then he put on a show, and I suggested inviting his roommate to join us, hoping for a buffer. His personality flipped again. That guy? I hate him. He started cussing him out to me, full of resentment. It was jarring. He quickly changed the subject and complimented me, and started touching my thigh. I felt extremely uncomfortable and said I needed water. As I got up, he slapped me on the backside and said, "Don't take too long." I walked to the kitchen. His roommate was asleep. I debated leaving, but I was paranoid. Those altars, his aggressive behavior. I was starting to feel like I didn't know what this guy was capable of. I got some water and cautiously returned. When I entered, he was sitting cross-legged on the couch, eyes closed, mouth moving, but no sound. I called his name. No response. The second time he opened his eyes, uncrossed his legs, and casually started watching TV, like nothing happened. What the actual hell? He acted completely normal again, like he could flip a switch between two different people. I needed a plan. I felt like I couldn't call him out without risking him flipping out again. Eventually, he got up to grab his phone. In an attempt to ease the tension, maybe even test his reaction, I jokingly gave him a playful tap on the backside, like the one he gave me. He spun around and lunged at me. Fist curled, it came inches from my face before he stopped mid-swing. His eyes? Cold, wide, unblinking. He stared at me like a predator staring down prey. And slowly, he uncurls his hand, cups my face, and whispers, "You're just so cute." And then he kissed me. I didn't want to, but I froze. I was terrified. The moment felt controlling, not romantic. He pulled away, smiled sweetly again, and sat down like nothing had happened. That was it. I was done. I stood up and told him I wasn't feeling well, that I needed to leave. He got angry, told me I should stay the night, but I stood my ground. Finally, he let me go. I got in my car and drove away, shaking, sweating. Every nerve in my body was on fire. When I got home, I blocked him. His number, his Grindr profile, everything. I even hid my pictures on the app. To this day, I haven't heard from him again, and I still wonder what would have happened if I'd stayed longer. So Brian, the erratic occultist, let's never meet again. I was 21, recently dumped, recently sworn in as a police officer, and like most young guys with a badge and something to prove, I had that I'm invincible mindset. A friend suggested Tinder. Why not, right? I matched with someone way out of my league. We talked for a bit, and eventually she invited me to hang out at her place. She said she knew this great open field to stargaze. Quiet, out in nature, a perfect spot. Sounded great. When I picked her up, she seemed cool, excited even. She guided me to the field, and honestly, it was beautiful. Wide open, surrounded by trees, with deer in the distance. But then I noticed something. Dim headlights, in the distance, getting closer. A van rolled up and stopped just in front of us, close enough to block my car from moving forward. I told her to stay in the car, grabbed my flashlight, and walked up to the driver's side. There was a man inside, decently built, probably in his 40s. I politely asked him to back up a bit. He said he owned the property and had trouble with poachers, just wanted to make sure we weren't out here hunting anything. I told him we were just stargazing, and he was surprisingly cool with that. He wished us a nice night and drove off. About an hour passed. She was texting constantly, but I didn't think much of it. Then, we saw headlights again, this time flying toward us. I threw the car into a more defensive position just in case. Same van. This time it sped toward us and stopped inches from my bumper. My date suddenly jumped out and ran toward the van. That's when I knew something was seriously wrong. I jumped out and shouted commands. "Back up, get on the ground." No one listened. The man rushed me, tackled me to the ground. I fought back, managed to get him on his back, and stood up. Then I saw her grabbing a metal pipe from the van. She shouted, "We have a gun! Give us your money and your truck and you won't get hurt." Even then, still running on pure adrenaline and arrogance, I said no. She started crying. "We don't want to hurt you." The man started moving toward my car again, and that's when I pulled my badge. I told them I was a cop, drew my concealed firearm, and ordered them to the ground. All three of us froze for a second. Then, shockingly, they complied. I called dispatch, gave my name and badge number, said I had 2 suspects at gunpoint, and asked for backup. But while I was still giving my location, they bolted. And yeah, like a young, dumb rookie, I chased them. I ran after the guy. He disappeared into the woods. After maybe 30 seconds, I heard 3 loud pops, saw muzzle flashes. My "I'm invincible" mentality? Gone. I ran like hell back to my car and got out of there fast. I drove back to the neighborhood where I picked her up and called for backup again. Guess who showed up first? My sergeant and my field training officer. And of course, they were totally chill and supportive, right? Nope. The most used words were "dumbass" and "stupid rookie." I hopped into their patrol car and we went back to the field. The van was still there. They told me to stay in the car unless shots were fired. They cleared the area and checked the van. What they found still gives me chills. Meth, in plain sight. And in the back of the van, knives, duct tape, lighter fluid, rifle ammo, handcuffs, and what looked like dried blood. In the front passenger seat, they found a large rifle and a couple of handguns. We called for immediate backup and detectives. Forensics later confirmed the blood wasn't actually blood, but still, what was all that for? Oh, and the van? Stolen. Plates were stolen too. I still get crap for the whole thing at the department, but no one got hurt, and I got a reality check. I will never use online dating again, ever.